Hello, everybody, and we are here for the final mock draft before the 2024 NFL Draft. This will be a predictive mock, again, so I'm gonna, this is how I've basically heard things from social media, because I'm not Daniel Jeremiah, I'm not Peter Schrager, I'm not Adam Schefter, I don't have sources with these GMs in these teams. So this is gonna be based off what I hear on social media, how I kind of feel about some of these players and some of these teams. So let's go ahead and get right into it. There will be trades in this. So I do have a few trades that we will have to do. But right now, with the number one overall pick, it's pretty obvious. It's going to be Caleb Williams. The Commanders did not bring out Caleb Williams to their Top Golf 30-day visits. And the Bears pretty much sat Caleb Williams down for dinner with some players to be like, hey, get to know your guys, because he's going number one. And that's pretty obvious since the beginning. And, maybe they keep Justin Fields and they roll with Justin Fields. No, that wasn't happening, and they obviously ultimately traded Justin Fields. So Caleb Williams is the pick here for the Chicago Bears. Now, this is where the draft gets interesting. This is where the dominoes start to fall for the NFL draft. Many people, and I mean many people, specifically Adam Schefter, has been doubling, tripling, quadrupling down that this is going to be the pick. And I can't sit here and say that I have full trust in Adam Schefter. I'm not saying he doesn't have sources. I'm not saying he isn't reliable. But, I don't know how accurate his thing is. So he seems to be 100%. But I'm just like, I just don't know if anybody can be 100% with how I think well the Commanders front office has really done with keeping this low. I still think there's a chance it's going to be Drake May. I'm probably 55-45 that it's going to be Drake May. I still think there's a higher chance it's going to be Drake May. And I'm going to pick Drake May here. Do I also think Drake May is the better quarterback? Yeah, 100%. I'm not going to be necessarily mad if they draft Jayden Daniels. I think it would be a little bit of a mistake. I'm a Commanders fan, so I'm kind of talking this from a fan perspective as well. So we'll see. I think I'm going to pick Drake May. I think it's going to be Drake May. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Jayden Daniels. And honestly, I think Jayden Daniels and Drake May go 2 and 3, right? And what I mean by that is that I don't think the Patriots are moving. I can't see that happening. They need a quarterback. We don't know how good the quarterbacks are going to be next year. So get your quarterback. You don't have to start him. If you feel comfortable with Jacoby Brissett, you feel comfortable with Jacoby Brissett, because this is not an offense. This is not a roster you really want a rookie quarterback starting in, unless it's like a Caleb Williams. Like, if Drake May or Jayden Daniels is your pick here for the Patriots, I'm a person that is, I guess I'm higher on start your guys. I'm not saying throw them to the wolves, but start your guys. The best experience that they can get is playing experience. At least that's how I kind of see with it. But I understand the reasoning for one of them to sit. I do. And I think if that's the option, they can do that with Jacoby Brissett as their quarterback. And then they can kind of sit. But I think it's going to be Jayden Daniels. I'm just like, when are the Patriots ever going to be in a top 3 position again? When? You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I'm at here with the Patriots. Get your quarterback and be pretty happy. The Cardinals, this one's pretty chalk. If this is available, they're taking Marvin Harrison Jr. Maybe they trade down, but I don't know if there's going to be any teams willing to give up that much. I don't know. Or give up what the Cardinals want. So get Marvin Harrison Jr., get a really good receiver for Kyler Murray. So that's going to be fun. And now we're going to have our first trade here. Minnesota Vikings are trading up with the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm not going to be super detailed on the trade assets or whatever, but I just know if they're trading up to the 5th pick, 11 and 23 will be in that trade. And obviously that's important because they're both first-round picks. So the Chargers are going to get 2 first-round picks. They're going to be moving back in this draft. And then the Vikings are moving up for Bo Nix. I'm kidding, not Bo Nix. J.J. McCarthy. It seems like J.J. McCarthy is the Vikings guy, most likely, because I think Drake May is not getting past the Patriots. And I don't think the Patriots are going to trade down with the Vikings I just don't see them being able to trade up that high. So that's kind of where I'm at there. They trade up with the Chargers. I know that franchise guy, Marcus, I said Marcus like I know him, I don't. But he brought up a great point that there's probably a trade already in place if their guy falls. If their guy is on the board, there's a trade in place for them to be like, hey, let's do the trade. Boom, they do the trade, they call it in, the Vikings move up. So that's where I'm kind of feeling. I don't think they got that 23rd pick for nothing. I think they're looking to trade up for it with it, or possibly use that on a quarterback if their guy doesn't get there. Maybe like a Bo Nix or Michael Penix if they're available at that 23rd pick. I think the Vikings are drafting a quarterback in this first round. I just can't see them not, especially with Sam Darnold. Come on, and you're trying to re-sign Justin Jefferson. It's hard to do that. I just can't see them walking away without a quarterback. The Giants, I don't know how they're feeling. They might be a little upset that J.J. McCarthy isn't available. I really don't know how they feel about quarterbacks, but we'll see. But the quarterbacks aren't on the board. They're going to be falling in. I mean, they're getting a really good player in Malik Neighbors, so good for them. I don't know if there's too much other than Malik Neighbors is a very dynamic receiver, fast, can play make after the catch. He's going to be annoying at the next level. But they need a number one receiver, and Malik Neighbors can be that. The Titans, this one's chalk. If Joe Alt's available for the Titans, you make the deal. You make the selection. You run it up to the podium. No much. It's Joe Alt, the best tackle in the NFL, one of the best run blocking tackles in the draft class, I should say. And the Titans need offensive linemen, bad, really bad. So Joe Alt's the pick here, and now we're gonna have our next trade. We're going to have the Falcons moving down. I think they feel comfortable with how the board is falling as they're looking for defense, right? So I just can't be I think it would be pretty smart for them to move down. Obviously not super far, right? But I think with the next 5 picks, I still think you can get a really good defensive player of your liking. So I have the Falcons. I'm going to have them move down with the New York Jets. The New York Jets are going to look to trade up again. Just going to swap the firsts. There's obviously going to be more in there. Probably like a third or a fourth most likely. And the Jets are going to get Rome Odunze, and they're going to help out Aaron Rodgers. Get a really good another guy next to Garrett Wilson. And I was just thinking that making that offense even more dynamic. They're a team that's been rumored to get Brock Bowers, maybe an offensive tackle. There's some really good offensive tackles in this draft class, so I think they're fine there. But also, it's this is just a really good weapons. And if I understand the risk of their offensive tackles, Morgan Moses and oh my gosh, what's his name? The Cowboys offensive tackle. There's a chance that they both get injured. One of them gets injured. And I guess that's the one thing that's okay, maybe you should take an offensive tackle or just stay put and take an offensive tackle. But I think getting another dynamic receiver next to Garrett Wilson would be really, really good. And I don't think that's out of the equation because I think if they stick at 10, if Brock Bowers is still there, there's still a chance they get Brock Bowers. So it's just another weapon. So we'll kind of see where that goes. The Bears, I tried to look for a trade down partner, and I don't. And I think they're just going to stick here. And they're going to get... I don't think he's the best defensive tackle in this draft class, but it seems like the NFL think he does, and I think Byron Murphy does have a chance to be the first defensive player on the off the board. And that's gonna be Byron Murphy. He's a little smaller, but he's an absolutely explosive athlete, and that just makes him just a really good defensive tackle. And I don't think height doesn't matter as much if you're a defensive tackle. Now, if you're 5'7", that's kind of... But Byron Murphy is an explosive athlete. He really does have some good strength to him as well. And I think that just fits that defensive line with Montez Sweat, some of the other defensive tackles they have on the team. So I really like that. And the Falcons are going to be up. They also need some help on the defensive side. They're going to go edge rusher Dallas Turner. I think he's the best edge rusher in this draft class. I understand that there is still some big development that needs to come with him. He needs to learn a little bit more of a counter move, but he's a really good run defender, really explosive, really good bend, athletic guy. So I'm willing. But I get the idea of wanting to go maybe a more developed guy like Latu, who is Latu's dominant. I just don't know how the NFL feels about his medicals. I don't think it's not the biggest problem in the world. It's not knees. It's not a back. It is a neck injury he had a few years ago. But Jalen Phillips fell. He kind of went a little bit in the mid to late first round because of that. That was also added to it. So we'll see. And Latu may very well be the first edge rusher off the board, but I'm going to have Dallas Turner go here. Now the Chargers, I think they're pretty happy with this. Brock Bowers is still on the board, and that's somebody they technically could have taken at 5. You know, Joe Alt's off the board. Rome Odunze's off the board. The top receivers are off the board. I'm going to give them a really good weapon that they can put on that offense in Brock Bowers. He's really not necessarily just this tight end. He's going to be in the slot, this power slot guy, an H-back. That's kind of where I see it with him, and so I don't think that's bad, right? So, the Chargers, and I mean, they still have this next pick, which I think they're going to really love, who I have picking them for that. So, let's go ahead and get into the Broncos pick. Scratch that. This isn't the Broncos pick. This will be the Cincinnati Bengals pick, as I do have them trading down. You know, J.J. McCarthy's not on the board. I think they're willing to trade down, recruit some assets a little bit. Maybe they really like Zach Wilson. Who knows? But I'm going to force this trade. The Bengals move up and pass some teams that need offensive line help. I'm going to give the Bengals Talise Fuanga. He can play offensive tackle. I know they brought some guys in, but can play offensive tackle. If you really want to, you can move him inside the guard to start his career, then move him to tackle if, in the future. I think he can. That's going to be his typical career pathway, I think. I think he'll start at guard and then move to tackle. Unless, again, he's being drafted by a team like the Saints that really do need an offensive tackle, or the Raiders possibly too. But here for the Raiders now, I got them going Quinyon Mitchell. I know they really want Jaden Daniels. They're not trading up for Jaden Daniels. It's just they're not going to have the assets, and nor do I think any of them are going to trade down. But Quinyon Mitchell is a Las Vegas Raider. Quinyon Mitchell in Las Vegas would be really fun. I need some cornerback help next to Nate Hobbs and some of the other guys. And Quinyon Mitchell is an absolute dog. He's not I don't think he's the best cornerback, but again, I'm not like the gap between my top 3 cornerbacks. I do have a top 5 ranking, so if you want to go watch that after this video, it is Cooper DeJean 1, Terrion Arnold 2, Quinyon Mitchell 3, and it's not that far. It's not that big of a difference. So I think this would be a great pick. Get some cornerback help, get a really good cornerback, and I just don't think the Raiders can go wrong with that. Now the Saints, they need offensive tackle. Ryan Ramczak's injured. It's just really a really bad situation. Trevor Penning was not a good draft pick. Hopefully they hit on that, and I'm gonna give them Olu Fashanu, or Fashanu. I think it's Fashanu. Now the Colts are on the board now, and I think I'm just gonna go another cornerback here, Terrion Arnold. They need some cornerback help. They have Kenny Moore, who's a pretty good slot cornerback. Get a good outside cornerback here with Terrion Arnold, who could also play in the slot from time to time. So I think that just makes a lot of sense, as the Colts need some DBs. I think a receiver is definitely in play there. But I'm gonna go ahead and give them to that defense, because I do like Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Josh Downs. So I think the cornerback is a little bit more of a need, and I'm not, and I think the levels of Terrion Arnold and Brian Thomas Jr., who's my 4th receiver, it is close enough to where I'm like, Terrion Arnold. Seattle, they just need some offensive line help. They do need some interior offensive line help, to be more specific. And Troy Fontenot can play that. He can play guard. He can also play tackle, which, Abe Lucas is, I think can be a really good tackle. He does have some injury concerns, so we'll see again if he can play anywhere on the offensive line. So I think that would be a great pick there for Seattle. And I think, get the hometown kid. Hometown kid with Washington. I think that makes a ton of sense there for Seattle, and I think that's a place they can definitely look. For Jacksonville, this one's interesting as well, because I think they can go receiver, but I think they're eyeing a cornerback this draft, especially with how good the receiver class is. They can look for something in the 2nd round. I'm gonna have Nate Wiggins. I think the NFL is somewhat higher on Nate Wiggins than I am. I think Nate Wiggins is a really good cornerback. He is smaller. He's lighter, I should say. He's a physical guy, though. Run defense is a little bit but a good coverage corner. So I do have Nate Wiggins here going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Broncos, they're not trading back anymore, but they did trade back with Cincinnati, and I'm gonna give them a quarterback. I'm gonna give them Bo Nix. They're happy that they can trade down, get some assets, and still get a quarterback that they probably could have taken at 12. I really like Bo Nix. I think he's the 4th best quarterback in this draft class. I think there is some Justin Herbert situation with him. I'm not saying he's going to be Justin Herbert, but again, playing in that Oregon offense, he's not going to be. He's not given the opportunity to make any of these high level difficult throws as much. And he did make some pretty good throws in Oregon, but at the same time it's like, okay, you're going to be running shorter yards, shorter passes, RPOs and stuff like that in Oregon that we see a lot of, and that's the same conversation that we kind of had with Justin Herbert, can he make those throws, or is he not being asked to? Can't, or like, you know what I mean? So I think that's the question. I do like Bo Nix. I think he can be a really good quarterback in the NFL. So the Broncos, they need a quarterback. They need to go for a quarterback. They really do. So I think Bo Nix is going to be the pick there. The Rams, they're pretty happy. They get a good option of defensive players, especially defensive linemen to look at now that Aaron Donald's been retired. I'm going to give him Jerzon Newton to be the next Aaron Donald. He's not going to be the next Aaron Donald, but I think, that's like the next best, like, transition you can get from Aaron Donald to Jerzon Newton. I wouldn't be mad at that if I'm a Rams fan, if I'm, the Rams head coach. That's a pretty good transition. That's one of the best transitions you can get. Obviously, nobody's going to be Aaron Donald unless it's like, you're signing Chris Jones somehow. But obviously that wasn't going to happen. But this is probably the best transition you can get from Aaron Donald to another defensive lineman who has superstar potential. A really good pass rusher, some good moves, athletics. He'll have to work on his run defense a little bit, but I think Jerzon Newton should be fine. He should be fine. And now the Steelers. This is where I have Brian Thomas Jr. going. I think they're going to draft a receiver. I think then pair up next to George Pickens. They traded Deontay Johnson. Calvin Austin's a solid receiver, but I think Brian Thomas Jr. can really be a game changer next to George Pickens, right? Brian Thomas can be a downfield threat. So can George Pickens, but George Pickens can probably play a little bit closer to the line, be that dynamic after the catch receiver that we saw a little bit last year. So I think that's a really good pairing for the Steelers is Brian Thomas Jr. The Dolphins, they're pretty happy that they have some. They got the option, right, of interior offensive line. They got Jackson Powers Johnson, edge rusher, defensive line. I just think there's a decent drop off after some of these edge rushers compared to some interior offensive line. I'm sure. Do they have a second round pick? They do. Yeah, they do. They do have a second round pick, which I think they can get some good a good interior offensive lineman here. So I'm gonna give them the Latu. They're gonna be a team again to draft the UCLA product that had to medically retire at the edge position, but they need some defensive line help. Christian Wilkins is gone. Bradley Chubb got injured. Jalen Phillips got injured. Van Ginkel is gone. Van Ginkel is gone. So they need defensive line help. Latu is a technical genius. He has pass rush move for pass rush move for pass rush move. It's really impressive watching his tape, and the way he just dominated versus USC was really something to watch. So Philly is now on the board. I think they're pretty happy. They can get Cooper DeJean. They need DB help. They just need any type of secondary help. He can play safety. He can play in the slot. He can play on the outside. Where do you want to put him? I think he can play outside cornerback. I think he can become a slot. I think he's going to work really well in Fangio's defense. So I don't think the Eagles are going to be pretty mad there. I think they're really going to like that pick. The Chargers are back on the clock, and I think they're ecstatic. I think they are so ecstatic that they got Brock Bowers, but also they're going to be getting J.C. Latham. Somebody who I think they love because he's such a good downhill blocker, run blocker. He's going to wash out some guys in the run game, and that's what they want to do. If they're not getting Joe Alt, I think their tackle number 2 on their board is probably J.C. Latham. And the fact that they got him at 23, I think they're really happy. Me personally, I'm lower on J.C. Latham. And even if he doesn't become a tackle, he can play a guard. You can't be mad at that either. But, they're going to want to run the ball. And J.C. Latham is going to be able to help that. So I think that just is going to make all the sense in the world. And I think if this is the case, they're running to the podium. Now next we have the Dallas Cowboys. They lost Tyler Biadasz. They need some offensive line help. Jackson Powers Johnson is their guy. Nothing too much to say about that. They just really need some offensive line help. Packers, Graham Barton, he's their guy. Can play anywhere on the offensive line. I think he has a chance to be a Pro Bowl level tackle. I guess I'm a little higher on him as a tackle, and I don't think there's a need to move him inside, but he has a chance to be a really good, possibly all-pro interior offensive lineman. So, Graham Barton should be a really good player and a really good pick for the Green Bay Packers. The Buccaneers on the clock. They're happy that they can get Jared Verse, keep the guy in state. They need some edge help because they don't have that many good edge rushers. They have Shawinka, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. Obviously they have Vita Vea as a defensive line, but they need some help on that edge. They have Kalijah Kancey too. So the interior should be good. Get some help in the edge. Jared Verse, really strong hands, a really physical and strong defensive lineman. So I think it's really good. And then we're gonna have our final trade here in this mock draft, and it's gonna be the Washington Commanders moving back up into the first round. Again, I'm not going to be super detailed, but it's probably going to be like 36 and either 67 or 78, whichever one. It doesn't matter. We're going to force the trade. So the Commanders move up. Cardinals move down. They're pretty happy with where they got. They're going to get an extra day 2 pick. And I mean, they're not moving down. They're moving down 10 spots. So you can't really be mad at that, especially when there's some really good guys still on the board. The Commanders are moving up for an offensive tackle, and the best offensive tackle still on the board is Amarius Mims. I think there's a chance he goes higher, but I was doing the mock draft, and he just fell. And I was wondering what the Cardinals could do with this pick. I'm like, hey, I think that there's a chance that the Commanders trade up. I feel like there's a little bit more steam going there. So I think if Amarius Mims or any of these top offensive tackles like J.C. Latham, Troy Fautanu, Olu fall this far, there's a chance they trade up for him. But Amarius Mims, a really rare prospect of size, power, and speed, athleticism. He'll need to work on his just overall technical refinement, But I think there's a chance Amarius Mims can be a really good offensive tackle, and I think Washington Commanders are going to need that for whoever they draft at quarterback. Getting some offensive line help is a must. The Bills. No Stephon Diggs, no problem. They get A.D. Mitchell. I'm a big fan of A.D. Mitchell. I think there's a chance he goes higher than this. I think there's a chance that Brian Thomas Jr. and A.D. Mitchell both somehow go in the top 20. I think Brian Thomas Jr. could fall to, I think, Jacksonville. Could make a move. Colts, why not? Raiders get another receiver next to Devontae Adams, why not? And then again, if Brian Thomas Jr. goes earlier, Jaguars, Steelers, they could take A.D. Mitchell. But A.D. Mitchell he has so much potential, man. I don't think this is a comparison, more of or at least of talent or skill or ability, but he's George Pickens in a way, in a sense of like, he'll take some routes off, he'll take some plays off, and it's just like, why are you not playing at full level every single play? And I think those are questions that he's probably been asked. So we'll see how the NFL feels about him. The Lions, they need some secondary help. Kool-Aid McKinstry is going to be their guy. He's going to be the type of player that they want in Detroit. So it makes a ton of sense for them in their secondary. The Ravens, this is a guy that has a lot of potential. Chop Robinson, he'll need some refinement, but he's an absolute freak of nature. Insane explosiveness off the ball. Some solid finesse moves, and obviously just able to beat guys with speed. You're gonna want to lead them with some stunts, and I think the Ravens need some younger edge rushers, and I think they can develop an edge rusher really well. So I think getting Chop Robinson, who has just he's just a ball of clay almost, that you can do so much with him because he has the athletic traits and attributes that you would want from an edge rusher. You're just going to need to teach him, and I think the Ravens can do that. The 49ers, they're looking for an offensive tackle, an offensive lineman. It's between Jordan Morgan and Tyler Guyton. I'm not going to be super, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not going to be super concerned about if I get this one right. It's gonna be if it's one of the two, I'm pretty happy. I do have them going Tyler Guyton though. Going to Oklahoma, played on the right side of the line. So they can just put him on the right side and not worry too much. Now, Jordan Morgan is somebody who can play guard, I think. So if they want that versatility or if they want a guard, they could go Jordan Morgan there. But there we go. The Chiefs are going to round this one out. It's going to be Xavier Worthy. I think this would be a mistake taking him so high. I don't think he's a first round type of player, but I think the Chiefs are just gonna really love the speed from Xavier Worthy. They're gonna want their Tyreek Hill again, and I don't think Xavier Worthy as good as Tyreek Hill. Obviously, I don't know the weight, but I think Tyreek Hill is a little bit more stockier. I think he's a little bit more weight to him. I don't think he does struggle when he does get pressed at Tyreek Hill, but I think there's a chance that Xavier Worthy is even more. There's even more of a chance. Yeah, he broke the record, but we all knew he's fast. We broke the 40-yard dash record, but we knew he was fast. So let's go ahead and take a look here at the final mock draft. So here it is. This is the final mock draft before the NFL draft. What do you guys think? This is all predictive mock draft with some trades. I didn't do that well last year. I think my last mock draft I got 2 or 3 right. So we'll kind of see what happens. But yeah, I think it's gonna be a 1, 2, 3 quarterback go. I think there's gonna be 5 quarterbacks in the first round, and so yeah, that's where we have this going with. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.